All right, guys, here we are back to finish up section 12.2, and we're going to actually start multiplying matrices by each other, not just scalar multiplication here. So, in order to multiply matrices, what you have to do is you have to multiply the rows of the first matrix by the columns of the second matrix. Okay, and so here's the thing about multiplying matrices. They don't have to be the same size like when you were adding and subtracting matrices. As a matter of fact, some of the ones that are the same size can't be multiplied. So what we're going to start with here is a quick test to see if you can multiply two matrices together, and if so, what size your answer is going to be. So here, I've given you the dimensions of three different matrices, A, B, and C. And then I want to know, can we multiply A times B? Well, A is a 3 by 2. I'm just going to write it underneath. B is a 2 by 3. They are not the same size. However, these can be multiplied, because what I want to do is I want to look at these numbers that are right here next to each other. They are the same number. That means they can be multiplied. So then, what size will my answer be? That's where you're going to look at these numbers that are furthest to the outside. So your answer will be a 3 by 3 matrix. All right, so let's test. Actually, before we do AC and BC, let's come out here to the side and do BA. Okay, I know I can do it in the order A times B, but I want to see if I can switch the order like we do with other multiplication things. So B, again, is a 2 by 3. A is a 3 by 2. So yeah, these here are the same, so yes, I can multiply them. But my answer this time is going to be a 2 by 2. So when you're multiplying matrices, order is important. Okay, you cannot just change the order because it works better for you. Okay, if you change the order, you're going to change the result when you multiply matrices. Okay, so let's look at AC. So I need A is a 3 by 2, C is a 3 by 2. So if you look right here, those are not the same. That means you cannot multiply them. Okay, so if you were asked to do this on your homework or on your quiz, you can just tell me you cannot multiply them, or you can say it's not possible. Either of those is fine. So now for B times C, B is a 2 by 3, C is a 3 by 2. So when I look, these numbers are the same, so yes, I can multiply them. Look at your outside numbers here. Your answer is going to be a 2 by 2. So now we're actually going to multiply some matrices. And I do much better with these if they are on lined paper, so I'm going to get some of that and just copy my problems over onto this paper. So the first one we're going to do is this. It is a 3 by 2. It has 3 rows and 2 columns. Multiply that by a 2 by 2. So now the first thing we've got to do is check and see, can we even multiply these? So this first one is a 3 by 2. This next one is a 2 by 2. Since these two numbers right here are the same, I can multiply them. So my answer is going to look like the outside numbers. My answer is going to be a 3 by 2. So now, when we multiply matrices together, it's a little bit strange at the beginning. And we're going to take it very, very slowly, do just a little bit at a time here. And if you'll remember, over here on this other page, we said you're going to multiply the rows of the first matrix by the columns of the second matrix. So here's what we've got to do. I've got to multiply, start out with this row is going to get multiplied by this column and then eventually by this column. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cover up the column I don't need to begin with. Okay? I'm going to start with this row times this column. And this is row 1 times column 1. So in my workspace, in my answer down here, that stuff is going to go in row 1, column 1. So what you've got to do is you've got to take this row and rotate it, turn it sideways, and I'm going to write it here next to that column. And what you're going to do is you're going to multiply -1 times 1, and then to that you're going to add 0 times 0. So -1 times 1 plus 0 times 0. And that is row 1, column 1. Then I have to do row 1 times column 2. So I don't need column 1 anymore. I'm going to cover it up. Same process. We take this row, turn it sideways, and now the ones that are next to each other get multiplied. But this is row 1, column 2. So in my workspace, row 1, I'm going to slide over to column 2. So 1 times 0 plus 0 times -1. And now I'm finished with row 1. So I'm going to get rid of these numbers that I copied over here. And we will move on down to row 2 with each of those columns. So I'm working with this row now. So we'll do row 2 times column 1, so I'll cover that one up. Turn this sideways. So we've got -1, -5 here. Because we're working on row 2, we're going to slide down to row 2 in our workspace, and I'm going to skip a line. So -1 times -1 plus 0 times -5. And then I have to work with row 2, column 2. So I need to make sure in my workspace down here I'm on row 2, column 2. Here's where I'm going to write all my information. So -1 times 0 plus -5 times -1. So row 2 is finished. So I can get rid of this. Now we've got to work on row 3 with both of those columns. So row 3 is going to get turned sideways, and I will write it here. And again, I'm working with the first column first, so I'm going to cover that one up so I don't have to worry about it. I don't need all those extra numbers in the way. So row 3 times column 1, which means in my workspace down here I have to go down to row 3, and I'm in column 1. -1 times 0 plus 0 times 3. Now we've got to work with row 3, column 2. So in my workspace, row 3, column 2. That is 0 times 0 plus 3 times -1. All right, so I'm actually done with the multiplying part at this point. All I have to do now is simplify this information. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply. -1 times 1 is -1 plus 0. 0 plus 0. 1 plus 0. 0 plus 5. 0 plus 0, and 0 minus 3. So then I'm going to put my answer in a 3 by 2 matrix down here. Row 1, column 1, negative 1 plus 0 is negative 1. Row 1, column 2, 0 plus 0 is 0. Row 2, column 1, row 2, column 2, row 3, column 1, and row 3, column 2. This is your answer. That's what you get when you multiply those two matrices together. All right, and that is it.